Welcome back to the Central Podcasting Unit. My name is Noah. I'm here in office today with Liam.
No, you're not.
Off to a great start as usual. Exciting episode for you today. We're talking about laptops, aren't we?
Wrong.
Okay, I guess we're not. What are we talking about then today?
First and foremost, we're talking about please follow us on social media. You can follow us on Instagram. Basileus TS, I assume, I'm pretty confident is our Instagram.
Yes, Basileus TS.
You can, our Instagram is starting to get some content. Also, when's this episode going live? On Friday, this coming Friday, so tomorrow. Cool, okay. More on that in 30 seconds. You can follow us on Twitter at Basileus TS. Make sure to like us on Facebook. Big push on social media there. Keep an eye out on our website. Hopefully in the next week or so, we're going to have some updates to our website in regards to our business services specifically, so that's something to keep an eye out for. But here's the big one. Can I get a fake metaphorical drum roll, please? That was neither fake nor metaphorical. However, the point does stand. Launching today, right now, as you're listening to this, on Friday the 19th. See, we're both cool like that. Is the Basileus merch.
Woo! What was supposed to launch last week.
Hey, attitude, please. Please, attitude. Okay. We did a grand opening event for our location here, now that the economy is starting to reopen here in the great state of Maine. And some of the people that came there said, hey, you guys should have merch. So we worked something out with Teespring. We developed some merch, and that's going to be on sale starting today. So if you are interested in some of that, feel free to visit our website, www.basileusts.com, and it will be under products where you'll be able to find that page, products and then merch. Mm-hmm. So you'll be able to find that there. We'd love to have you purchase some of our merch, rep the brand, and so on and so forth.
Yep. And it's not just T-shirts either. We have socks.
We have socks.
I'm very excited about the socks.
And sweatshirts, the whole 9 yards. So there's merch. That's it. That's all I had.
Yep, that was the big announcement.
Well, no, that was the boring stuff over. The boring stuff.
Merch is boring?
No, it's not. It's it's exhilarating. I'm sure you could hear the exhilaration in my voice.
Okay, I'm excited about the merch. I'm
also excited about the merch. I really am.
Get yourself some socks. We're serious.
What I'm not exhilarated about is how wrong this episode of the podcast feels right now. We're missing an adapter, so I don't have the headphones on that you see cool people wearing when they're doing recording sessions like this. And by cool people, I mean people like Noah, or cool people like Liam for the previous 7 podcast episodes. And now I'm naked and I'm afraid.
Oh my goodness. The struggle must really be real to not be able to hear myself and yourself in your... Wait, you can hear myself and yourself in your ears.
The struggle is just so real. It's actually a huge problem, and I'm really glad that you mentioned that to me because I was feeling really hurt at the fact that I'm having the struggle.
I refuse to validate your feelings. We're going right into the topic today.
Yeah, so laptops are really interesting. Laptops are a really interesting thing. So you're going to think this is really interesting, and I'm just going to jump right out of the gate with it. So, I guess that's something else to say real quick. We will be doing a follow-up from last week's episode, but it will be next week talking more about NAS servers and kind of basic home servers and the pros and cons and RAID and more on hard drives. We just wanted to break it up a bit because we just felt like it would be a good idea to break it up.
Don't want to overload.
Like we did with the processors. Where we had 3 episodes that touched on processors here and there.
Or mobile phones.
Right, and just space it out over time. So I'm actually going to... So the inspiration about talking about laptops actually came from Lenovo. And Lenovo coming out with a new iteration of their ThinkPads, announcing a new iteration of their ThinkPads. And so what had happened is I said to Noah, hey, let's talk about the Lenovo ThinkPads. Because when you think of a Lenovo ThinkPad, you think of a... high school, like the Lewiston Auburn schools here, with 15-year-old computers that are slow and they suck and this and that. Lenovo's constantly developing the ThinkPad brand, and that's not actually a good representation of what a ThinkPad is. In fact, the Lenovo ThinkPads, especially this new generation, are even comparable to an extent to some of the highest end laptops on the market.
Really?
Really. So I have an article pulled up. I actually have Steam pulled up. What's that doing on a company computer?
Yeah, he's not playing games during the workday. Don't worry about it.
Well, I was this morning.
Don't make me say it.
before the day before we opened. But hey. All right, so the new Lenovo ThinkPads, I have this here. So first of all, I'm talking about the third generation Lenovo X1 Extreme ThinkPad. So it's a ThinkPad Extreme. First of all, they're going to be using Intel's 10th generation processors, which is pretty cool. But also, let's see. So they're going to use the 10th generation processors up to a Core i9 in these computers.
Up to a Core i9?
Up to a Core i9. And then it's going to have, it can have equipped a 1650 Ti in it, which...
Wow.
I mean, the Ti is impressive. The 1650 is a bit old at this point, especially with the 30 series being rumored.
But still, like...
A Ti graphics card in a laptop like that. So I was going to say high-end computers. I had been reluctant to say gaming machines, but this is more so...
That could do some light gaming.
Light gaming can probably handle just about anything, with the exception of the most modern...
You're not going to be pushing max graphics, 4K, on most things, but it'll be able to handle most titles.
10th gen processors up to an i9. You've got a 1650 Ti, a 15.6 inch screen, no 4K. It's just Ultra HD. Let's see, Wi-Fi, LTE, so on. It's going on sale for $17.49.
Whew, that's
Yeah, they have a variety of different models. Whoa, there's a P series models. I didn't read this far ahead. The ThinkPad, the highest P series model, goes for $21.19. So the point I'm trying to make is that there's a perception of Lenovo ThinkPads and Lenovos, if you will, of being lower quality to an extent. And one of the things that actually surprised me is that Lenovo currently, by brand, is the market leader for laptops.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, like I said, it surprised me because I thought it was Hewlett-Packard, or at the very least Dell. And one of the things with Lenovo is their computers are of good quality and they're reliable. They're not coming with this bloat that you're getting from HP and Dell. They're just more reliable, and they last longer. And that's why you see aging ThinkPads in schools. I mean, you'll see a 10-year-old ThinkPad that's been updated to Windows 10 and is running Windows 10, and they're still using them.
When I think ThinkPad, I usually think of the teacher laptops that we had in like, middle school or something like that.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. But in some places they're messing around with MacBooks, which MacBooks in education is a mistake.
We don't need to get into your Apple bias, in this episode.
I'm serious. I'm serious though. I'm serious because what does the professional world use? Unless you're in a niche industry, what does the professional world use for operating systems?
PCs.
So don't teach kids Mac.
But Macs are easier to lock down and restrict because Apple builds that into the OS. I digress.
Anyway, so these Lenovo computers, I think one of the reasons you see Lenovo having such a large part of the market is because of just how long these machines can stay in service. And think about it. You have a Lenovo computer that's 5, 6, 7 years old, and a business is phasing it out. What are you selling each of those laptops for now? $50 to $100 refurbished?
Something like that.
I mean, something cheap like that, especially if you're bulk ordering them for another organization. I mean, they can just stay in circulation for a long period of time because the quality's good. But the ThinkPad brand, if you will, is not just low-end machines, but it is mid to high-end machines. It really is just kind of all-purpose now at this point.
No, that's really great to see that progression. Again, we've always kind of thought of Lenovo's as, or ThinkPads especially as like, the teacher computer, something like that, or maybe a professional like business computer or something like that. But yeah.
There's something for everybody. There really is. And so we've gone back and forth about whether we should do an entire episode dedicated just to the news about the ThinkPads, and ultimately we had initially decided against it, just to talk about laptops in general, because there is so much over the past few months that Lenovo has been doing to introduce new products and invigorate the ThinkPad brand. If you're looking for a Lenovo, there's a lot that the new computers look like they're going to be able to offer.
Yeah, definitely. It's honestly making me consider buying a Lenovo if I had the money.
Here's a question for you, and this I think is going to be the best way to handle the next line of conversation, because while we have some notes, we have some stuff written down, this, kind of like last episode, is a very fluid episode in the way that we're planning on doing it. So I got a question for you, Noah, and this is an unprepared question. Do you recommend a particular brand for a general purpose laptop, and if so, why?
Ooh, that is a good question. I don't recommend anything specifically, but I would edge away from Dell.
Why? I mean, you're not going to hear an argument from me there.
That's a personal bias. I'm not a big fan of Dells, and I've had bad experiences with them.
Sure.
I've had, bad user experiences. I don't like the bloat that they put on them. I'm just not a big fan of Dells. You could pretty much get a good general purpose laptop. Unless you're talking about Chromebooks, I would not buy a Chromebook.
You want to hear something real interesting on the topic of Dells real quick? So here's a fun fact. I think I mentioned it in the first episode of the podcast. I had an Alienware.
Mm-hmm.
I hated the Alienware for a variety of reasons. So when it was time to retire the Alienware, I built my own computer. My dad has an Alienware Area 51, and the thing's a monster. I think it's got two, not 90. It's got two. It might be 980 Ti's. It's either 980s or 1080 Ti's. I can't remember. It's got two of them strapped. It's got a good processor. Mine's better. But a bunch of other things too. But ultimately, his computer is comparable to mine, except for the graphics card. His computer cost a lot more, but this is the thing that I found really interesting. His computer idles by using 2 gigabytes more RAM than mine does.
Holy crap.
Because of the Alienware bloat that's in the
system. That is a lot of bloat.
Yeah. So he was nice enough to give us his computer from the early 2000s, and we've set that up, and we're using that as a basic NAS server for our office. And so
more on that next week.
And so I helped him get the data off of the old hard drive of that computer and bring it onto his new computer, and I just helped him with some general optimizations. And I mean, there's just so much bloat. Like, for example, my Alienware had it as well, is when you buy an Alienware, typically you get like a reward or something like that. So, for example, I got Assassin's Creed, the Egyptian one.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't remember it off the top of my head. I gave it away. And then I got Total War Warhammer 2. And both those games were free with my Alienware, I think. One of them might have been from my, Total War Warhammer 2 came with my graphics card when I built my computer. And I remember it was Batman, the newest Batman Arkham game that came with my Alienware, but the PC version was so bad and buggy that they unreleased it, so I never actually got it. But for that first time purchase, if you will, reward you get, there is a program on your computer, and the entire purpose of that program on your Alienware computer that Dell put on there is to give you that game, give you that prize. And when you have it, that program stays there. It's always on. It's in the background, and it's eating your RAM, even though it's never going to ever be used again.
That's terrible.
It's just crap like that. That's what Dell's doing to their high-end machines. Their low-end machines don't have as much, but they still have stuff. And you know who else is really bad in that regard too?
Who?
Hewlett-Packard.
Yeah.
Did you know they're not Hewlett-Packard?
They're not?
They changed their name, did a name change from Hewlett-Packard to HP. So they had been known as Hewlett-Packard, operating and kind of well-known. They were Hewlett-Packard, but known as HP. But now saying Hewlett-Packard is actually inaccurate because they full changed to just HP.
So you've just been saying the wrong thing.
Well, when I worked retail, when I worked in Office Max, a lot of the older customers who came in would say Hewlett-Packard, and I was like, Hewlett-Packard? Now that sounds cool, and that's just what I say. That's the story.
Well, there you go.
I love it, but technically HP is more accurate. So you wouldn't necessarily recommend a particular brand?
I would probably I would edge more towards HP, just because they're, despite the bloat, their machines are relatively reliable.
I think the build quality, personally, the
Yes.
build quality of HPs are better.
Absolutely.
Again, one of the things that I found just kind of with Dell's is I just don't think Dell's QA process is there.
Yeah.
Personally. Just kind of from my experience with Dell, especially on their higher end machines. So I personally don't recommend Dell's. Normally, I like to send people over to Hewlett-Packard, but Lenovo is, while I haven't fully moved over to Lenovo yet, I am getting there.
Mm-hmm. I would not recommend their lower end computers, simply because I use one at work with the audio company, and it's trash. It's really bad.
I wouldn't recommend a low-end computer to anybody. If you're not getting at least an i3 with 8 gigs of RAM and at least 500 gigabytes in a HDD, I think you're getting ripped off, personally. I think that for the average user, they don't need an SSD, a solid-state drive in their computer. And what's driving the price of laptops up right now is they're coming with solid-state drives.
A lot of the times, it's M.2 drives as well.
Which is fine, but the problem is that these solid-state drives are small because solid-state is expensive right now.
Mm-hmm.
So you have computers. I was actually talking to somebody today, okay, that had received a computer through the Give IT, Get IT program, okay, and it comes with 5 gigabytes in storage. Off the top of my head, I don't know if it's a SSD or it's an HDD. I would assume it's an HDD. And that person was telling me how their a family member got a computer for $200 from Walmart. It has 4 gigs of RAM. And are you ready for this? It's a Windows 10 machine. 32 gigabytes of storage in a solid-state drive.
Oh, that hurts me. That hurts me so much.
There's no room to download programs.
It's running Windows 10?
It's running Windows 10. Phones, base model phones
have more.
And so businesses are selling computers with these solid-state drives and low memory, and people don't know any better. But this woman was telling me when I called her, she was actually in the middle of resetting her mother's computer because it had less than a gigabyte of storage left and couldn't even work anymore. People don't, for low-end users, they're typically, the people that are buying these computers, they're typically not aware enough of what's actually going on and what they're doing to use the computer safely and reliably with that low memory.
Yeah, and just as a general consensus here, buying a new computer for $100 is not a good deal.
What you pay for is what you get. That is the law of the land with technology.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are paying for a $200 computer brand new, you're going to buy another computer in a year because that computer is junk.
Absolutely.
If you spend the $600, you're going to get 6 or 7 years if you take care of that computer right. But if you're only spending a couple hundred or less,
I would expect to buy a new computer around that time.
Within a year or two.
Yep.
Most definitely. I think refurbished is a bit of a different story. It depends on the quality of the refurbisher, if you would.
Yeah. Make sure to
only buy from trusted sources.
Yes. That's what I was going to say.
We're in the process, or we just kind of wrapped up over a month-long ordeal with a new computer, actually, of somebody that did not purchase a computer from a trusted source, and it was not pretty.
No, it was not.
It was not pretty at all because they got scammed.
Yep. Just to put it plain and simple, scammed. It's really sad.
If you're going to buy a computer, buy it from a trusted source. Buy it straight from the manufacturer or buy it from a retailer. Don't buy it off of people you don't know and you cannot find reputable assertions to the quality of their work. And even then, if it's not a retailer, if it's not a manufacturer, take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
You have to be careful.
Yep. It's, saving you and your wallet right there.
But in terms of laptops, don't just, and computers in general, just do yourself a favor and don't buy a low-end machine. With that being said, if you use your laptop only for social media and it's only a couple times a month, why are you going to spend $600 on a computer? It depends a lot on your use case, as Noah so much likes to say.
Hey, absolutely.
Use case.
Absolutely.
If you're somebody that's looking for a computer for school or work or to spend a lot of time on, make the investment. If it's just a computer for the sake of having a computer, you don't care about the speed, you're not downloading programs, you're not putting pictures on it, then you can start looking at a $100 to a $200 computer. And dare I say it, that is the only circumstance where I would also consider a Chromebook.
I would agree. I would agree with that.
Chromebooks are built on Google's proprietary operating system, which is actually a Linux variation. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. They're very restrictive, very locked down, and I believe this is still the case. You can't download... no, I know that this is the case. You can't download third-party applications.
You can actually... you can download applications through the Google Play Store. So the apps that are on my phone, I can put on a Chromebook.
But you can't go and download, say, CPU-Z or something like that.
It's going to have very specific, what's the word? It's going to have to be built, have a build specifically for Chrome OS, but Chrome OS is so niche where a lot of the programs you're going to be using on Chrome OS are not, or would want to use, are just not going to have that compatibility. Chrome OS is really good for schools, again.
Yep.
And it's better, I would argue, than the push for Apple computers because, one, it's so much cheaper, but two, public schools can't afford the Microsoft suite. No ifs and or buts, right? So they're using the Google suite, and Chromebooks are meant to be used in conjunction with the Google suite on the cloud.
Yep.
Right? And what that does is while your Chromebooks, and the same can be true if you get the Microsoft suite and you have a low-end Windows computer, if you're doing everything in the cloud, nothing's getting saved onto the computer itself, and therefore the computer is staying relatively clean and relatively, not getting bogged down with all this extra storage. But the same can't be said with the Apple computers because as far as I'm aware, Apple has no real comprehensive cloud bundled all together like Microsoft or Google does. If they did, I'd actually be very interested to see what Apple did for that, if that's something they did.
Like a cloud storage thing?
Not necessarily a cloud storage, but think of like a Microsoft Office or a G Suite with Google Docs and Sheets and so on and so forth. Because if Apple was making that push into education like they've been attempting, I don't know if it's something they're still attempting to do because Google picked up a lot of their steam. I would be really interested to see what their bundle solution would be like for an education environment.
It's built into Mac OS. They have a word processor and all that stuff. It's free and it's built into Mac OS, and it stores to an Apple ID.
Sure, but
Yeah.
you would need some sort of better integration with the cloud and so on and so forth. I think for schools,
You probably would. And it would probably only require a little bit of tweaking though. So it's there.
feasible.
It's
Yeah.
feasible and it's there. I just don't think Apple has implemented it yet, and I think they're shifting towards other things.
The
at the
cost
moment.
on schools as well is just
Yeah,
so great.
it's just so massive. Although the new ARM MacBooks, ARM powered MacBooks, might be a huge thing for education.
Sure. We will see. You know
Yeah.
what would be a great topic for an episode? Education and technology.
That is a great idea.
Just what are the schools doing? Because some schools use the ThinkPad still. Some schools have moved over to Chrome and the Google stuff. Some schools are still working with Apple.
Some schools are using netbooks still. Do you
Some
remember
schools
those?
are using tablets.
iPads. That was a bad
That
time.
was bad. I think that might be a fun topic for another episode. With that being said, we're at 26 minutes, so that's probably going to wrap up this episode.
I have one quick question for you
Sure.
regarding laptops. Would you buy a gaming laptop?
He knows this, and the answer is no. Very quick. Here's the dealio, okay? Manufacturers ship out, from my experience, at least the experience I had with Dell, is my computer came shipped out overclocked. And the problem with my computer being shipped out while being overclocked is the fact of the matter is that the hardware for my laptop was not meant to handle the temperatures that were being pushed from my processor, and my very expensive Alienware machine melted its own interior. And I was not aware that the overclocking was actually already in place, and I did not want it in place.
Wow.
That was my bad experience with Dell. Here's the thing, gaming on a laptop, you're going to be pushing high temperatures out, okay? You need proper ventilation, and at least when I got my computer 5-6 years ago, that was not in place. Is that in place now? It may as well be. But personally, I don't trust a gaming laptop, because even running an intensive game with full-on liquid cooling and stuff in a desktop, you're still going to be getting into the 60s or low 70s in degrees Celsius, and you're going to be pushing these laptops to 95, 96, 97 of the 100 threshold for Celsius, and I just don't think that is good for anybody, because then you run into performance issues with thermal throttling, you run into the computer getting a little too hot for its own good, and if you're serious about it, then you should get a desktop.
Although, I will say, I had a different experience. I had a really good experience with a gaming laptop. Gaming laptops have come so far where now we have these external GPUs, for instance, that take the load off of the computer.
Sure.
That take the load off of the laptop, and it just kind of changes the game as far as that goes.
See, but here's the problem. You know what that sounds like?
Money.
No. A desktop with extra steps.
Fair enough, but if you want to be able to take your laptop on the go and then sit down at home and play a game, that's a good option.
Sure,
the option is there.
But if you're serious about it,
yep,
then it's not an option. If you're casual, then sure, it might be passable. Or you could be cool like me. And if you want to take your computer on the go, you take your 20 to 30 pound full-size tower, fully kitted out, and you take it on long car trips with you multiple times a year. Boy, is that fun. And the hour teardown and put together of the system is fun. Quite frankly, I don't know why that's not preferable to a laptop. I think people are just crazy and have their priorities in wrong order.
Anyways, that's going to do it for us.
Is it though?
It is. Let me have my outro.
No.
Anyways, that's going to do it for this episode of the Central Podcasting Unit. Again, I'm here in office. My name's Noah. That's
Don't
Liam.
forget to follow us on social media at Basileus TS on Instagram and on Twitter, as well as on Facebook. Don't forget to buy our merch. What merch?
You sounded so thrilled when you said all of
I
that.
am thrilled. Don't get me wrong, I'm thrilled. I just can't hear myself. I'm having a lot of problems with that.
We don't need to hear your complaining anymore.
It's a real big problem, okay? But here's the dealio, okay? This has been a fun episode. I hope you enjoyed it. A little all over the place, but I think what we discovered while filming this episode is that we're going to have some follow-up episodes with you talking about the Lenovo ThinkPads, talking about technology and education, and talking about primarily, what was the other one? Gaming laptops. I think those are 3 really cool episodes. Consider
Absolutely.
this your introduction to laptops. Episode title: Introduction to Laptops. And with that, that's going to do it. Thank you, everybody, for listening. It has been a fantastic episode, and I look forward to speaking to you next week.
We will see you next week, guys. Bye.